Let me get into what I want to talk about with this segment of the program, which is how did I make this transformation? This is what I promised before the break. How did I make this transformation from where I was to where I am now? What was the turning point for me? The turning point for me, as I described on the blog and in the program before, was the moment that I decided to own my life. I took ownership of my life. That was the moment that turned everything around. And let me share with you exactly how that happened. I'll never forget, I was actually, at the time, living in Idaho's Treasure Valley, which for those of you who are not familiar with southern Idaho, Treasure Valley is the Boise area. And so here I am traveling out of town on a road trip. I was actually on my way to Wyoming because I just felt like I was just so, how can I say this? I felt like I was at rock bottom. I felt like I needed to find a way out. And the only way I was going to find a way out of my predicament and improve my situation, I felt, was I need to separate myself from everything and everyone that I'm familiar with. I need to go somewhere where there's not going to be anybody else, and I can be by myself, and I can basically, be in a situation where I can really reflect and meditate and ponder and pray and sort this out. And so I had this wonderful little road trip planned to Wyoming. And, the trip actually was very memorable because I achieved the purpose for which, I came back from that trip just so filled with fire inside. I was lit up. I was so in love with the life that I was going to have, the life that I was starting to choose. And, I didn't even get very far before this process happened. Because, of course, if you've ever driven on I-84 or, any stretch of highway that runs through a desert territory, you know how your mind gets to wandering. And that's exactly what my mind was doing. Because my mind is I already have a natural propensity to wander. So you put me in that environment and, I'm going to be thinking about this, thinking about that, and this. And, of course, I still remember I was there driving my car on I-84 East. And I hadn't even yet gotten the mountain home, I don't think. No, I don't think I even gotten the mountain home. I wasn't very far out of town. And I was starting to think about, what's going on? And all these things that, what is it that's keeping me down? What is it that's keeping me back? What is it? Why can't I ever seem to get a leg up? Why can't I turn this around? And something clicked inside of me when I was entering in those thoughts. Something clicked inside of me as I began to see, and I honestly believe that it was the Spirit that was guiding my thinking and helping me to make this connection. I began to see how the choices that I was making, the choices that I had made in the past, I saw how those were linked to the results that I was getting. And suddenly it just became so clear to me. It's like you have the results you have because you've chosen it. And you've chosen the results that you have through the choices that you've made in how to act and what to say, what to do, but more importantly, more fundamentally, in how you've chosen to think. The focus that you've had on your life, on the negative for all these years, has brought you the negative reality that you've been decrying all these years. You have made that choice. And that's a choice that you can make, a choice that you can change. I had to take that first step, realizing how my choices was connected to my reality. That was the first step. And once I realized that, okay, you're in that moment where you can accept it or you can reject it. And those people who can never get out of this never-ending cycle of failure, those people who always seem to be, trapped by the negative, who have the victim mentality, you can reason with them and you can help them to understand how all this is connected and how they're making choices. But if they don't accept that, if they reject it, then nothing will ever change for them. Nothing will ever change for them. You have to accept that premise when you're presented with it. That is key, because until you accept that, truth that the results you have in your life are the results that you have chosen. You may not have chosen them consciously. And in fact, many of us have not chosen the results that we have consciously, because 97%, I got this in the monologue, 97% of the choices that we make every day are out of habit. We're making choices without thinking about what we're doing, because that's what habits do. They automate sequences of action so we don't have to think about what we do in order to get it done. And so most of us are not consciously aware of what's going on when we're making these choices, but we are making the choices. And you have to accept that at the start, because otherwise the process can't continue. Because here's the next step. The next step is for you to take responsibility for your choices. You will never take responsibility for your choices if you don't accept that your choices are getting you the results that you have in your life. If you don't accept that premise, you'll never take responsibility. And that's the second step in the process, taking responsibility for the choices that you make. Because once you take responsibility for the choices you make, then the next step is you commit to change. I'm responsible for the choices that I make, and I'm going to start making better choices. And that was right there, I'd sealed the deal. And I can remember sitting in the car driving on I-84 East as I sealed the deal. And I did. I began to seal the deal because when I got to Wyoming, my plan started playing out. I really engaged myself, dug really deep into myself, because most people don't dig deep enough into themselves to get the answers that they really need for the problems that they're facing in their life. You really want to turn your life around, don't go looking outside yourself. You got to look in, because it's the stuff that's inside you that needs to change. And then the stuff outside of you change. And that's what I focused on this particular trip. I was focusing on what changes do I need to make inside of myself so that I begin to have the life that I really want. And I tell you, that really turned things around for me.